What's going on, everybody? What's going on, everybody? Going to take a few more seconds before I start up, but was excited to get on here today. You know what? Let's go now. Going on, everybody? I want to welcome you to Knicks Deli. That's right, Knicks Deli. We did the brand change. Got a lot of exciting things coming your way, folks. SB Community. We got to think of a new name for the squad, because I don't think it's appropriate that we have KD Community. And we know that's not accurate. So we're going to work on that little by little, but I'm super excited about the changes that are coming in Knicks Deli. Got some ideas, but more importantly, just to have it a little bit more clean. And now that I'm settled, I'm back in NY. You know, I was coming from Indiana. You know where I was coming from. I was out there in the middle of the wolves, but I'm back. I'm back with the home pack, and it gets serious right about now. So I want to thank y'all for joining me. If you're here for the first time, welcome to Knicks Deli. If you don't know, the deli in New York is a staple here in New York. Okay? So typically Knicks Deli would have been what we would do after New York Knicks victories. Well, now it's every day. Okay? Every day, the staple is going to be Knicks Deli. So this is how we rocking. But I want to thank you for joining me, joining the channel, listening to the video, and if you like it, hit that thumbs up button. Actually, hit the subscribe button so you're aware of any time I'm dropping new content. Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 p.m. is usually going to be video content, but I may occasionally go live. And Saturday, 10 p.m. every Saturday, we going live. We're going through the mailbag. We want to see what you guys are talking. Okay? But I got a great video for y'all today, so I want to thank you for joining me. If you're returning to the channel, my day ones, my SB community, welcome back. You know we're about to get it in right now. You know we're about to get it in. But I want to thank you, because there is no channel without you. From the ground up, you rock with me, help me through my mistakes, but we're about to break through to the next level. So I want to thank you for being part of always being supportive. SB community. Now, you know you can't have those people who rock with you. You can't have those people who share the same sentiment as you do. Those people who are on the same page or the wavelength. If you don't have the other people, okay? And we call those people the ops. Yeah. So we know you're in the comment section. We know that you're secret shopping, okay? We know what you're doing right now.
We circling the block. We spinning the block.
You circling the block and you spinning the block. And guess what? We roll deep here. You rocking with the best, baby. But welcome to the channel, friend or foe. We want the smoke. And the smoke is exactly what we're bringing today, courtesy of the New York Knicks offseason. A lot of content creators are putting out content, thinking about what the next steps for the New York Knicks look like. What free agents are out there? What are the New York Knicks going to do? Are we going to wait for the CBA to go through before we start considering making a move? Or are we going to do something ahead of time? Everybody's talking. Everybody's whispering. All right? But I couldn't do anything less than just reflect on the season. Now, I know I did that in a previous video, but this is different. I had to reflect on the season, and I thought to myself, you know what? Everything is going according to plan. So I stopped being frustrated with Knicks Nation. I stopped being frustrated with Knicks Twitter. Every time they had something negative to say about Tom Thibodeau, I stopped because I know what the plan looks like. Anytime they're talking about, you know what I'm saying, we got these coaches out here, and Tom Thibodeau can't make adjustments. I'm saying, I don't know why you all up on this cat. He ain't doing nothing but bringing us to the playoffs 2 out of 3 years. What are we talking about? But I'm gonna get into all of that. But what I wanted to do today with this video is, if nothing else, help open your eyes to what a 5-year plan looks like. And I talked about it on my other videos, and y'all wasn't paying attention. I wasn't dropping breadcrumbs. I was giving you a red pill and a blue pill. Not that red pill and blue pill. I was talking about the Matrix, damn it. Make a choice. Would you rather that we would have continued on the path that we were going down with a Dan Tony or the Derek Fisher and Matt Barnes attached to that, and act like we weren't going to go down the trail where we bring everything down and bring competent coaching? Or do you want to take the other option? And then you say, listen, this is how it's going to be. We're going to bring in a Leon Rose. We're going to bring in a Tom Thibodeau, and it's going to take time, but you have to trust the process. It's about choices. And many of you are choosing to be spoiled. But we're going to get into that. I'm not going to take this opportunity to bash all of my brethren. I just want to bring your eyes open and reveal what's directly in front of us. And what's directly in front of us is the LeBron James era starting to set. Beautiful thing when you get up in the morning and you're waking up by the sunrise, because that always means that there's another opportunity to get things right. A new day. But then also something that's rest. So rest filled is when you start to see the sunset. And you know what? Job well done. So as much flack as I give to LeBron James, job well done. He may try to stretch this thing out, but he is in no position now to dominate to the level that he's dominated over the last few years. So I say that to say this. The New York Knicks and the front office, their timeline. I remember once we reset it and we brought in a new front office, anytime you bring in a new front office, anytime you bring in a new coach, that is hitting the reset button. So all of you people thinking about bringing in a new coach, I want to bring in a new coach, you're saying you want to hit the reset button. It's no guarantee that they're going to pull up what is it, the dude in Sacramento. Ain't no guarantees for that. So every time I hear you guys talk about a new coach, you're saying I want to press the reset button. So let me explain to you what's happening to us right now. And let's start a little bit from the beginning and we're going to catch up. So I want to welcome those people who are joining right now. Joining me. Do me a favor. Yo, what's going on, bro? Let's go. I'm going to feed you. Because some people was coming on here before talking this. They were saying they wasn't eating. Some people was coming on here before saying I wasn't eating. Well, everybody eats here at Knicks Deli. You know that, Mike. So let's go. So the New York Knicks happen to be in a privileged position right now. The New York Knicks are in an ideal position. What they showed you in this offseason is that their star is on the rise. And the New York Knicks are rising at the right time. They're rising just as the LeBron era is beginning to set on the NBA. And let me prove it to you. So, let's start off with the rebuild. Walk with me on this one. Okay? Just walk with me. When I'm talking about the rebuild, this is what I'm talking about. Do you remember back when we were looking at getting a new front office, right? There were several things that were wrong with the organization inside and out. There was terrible contracts that we had to dump. We knew we had these veterans. We knew we had players that didn't fit, pieces that were duplicating in terms of positions on the roster, and they had bad contracts attached to them. So one of the first things we was thinking is, look, we got to get rid of some of these people. They ain't part of our future. The other thing is that we knew we had to get the right fit at the front office. Who is going to be the right fit that's going to turn this thing around seriously? Will Dolan trust them to do the job and not give them the axe? Will they pick the right coach? Will they keep the current coach? Mike Miller. Will they keep Mike Miller and keep the other people in the front office, or will they come in and clean the house? So even that front office move to hire the right people was a decision. We were just like, do we want to be like LA and hire an agent? Do we want to give somebody new a shot? Do we want to give it to Allen Houston? What are we going to do with this front office? That was all part of the groundbreaking process for this rebuild. Then we were talking about who's going to be the right coach. What type of coach, what type of style of play do we want to play? Do we want to keep Mike Miller, who showed the ability to have this team fight hard for him? Or do we want to get someone who has a reputation, someone who is credible around the league, someone who has a proven track record of being able to at least lay down a solid, firm foundation? Or do we want to go with one of these new potential young bucks, the Ime Udokas, who have all the potential to be a good coach, but they've never been given a shot? That was part of the discussion when we were talking about the rebuild 3 short years ago. All right. The other piece is the New York Knicks never had a reputation of drafting, keeping their own draft picks, and then using them to draft well. It's enough if we have our picks. Are we drafting well? We don't have a history of it. So it started a little bit before the rebuild with Steve Mills and Scott Perry saying, you know what? After the Kristaps thing, we're going to stop. We're going to stop giving these other teams our picks. We're going to stop getting shafted. They were having nightmares about Masai Ujiri. They were having nightmares about him. And yes, they said, you know what? This is it. This is it. We ain't going to have Mark Cuban laughing at us no more. We ain't going to have Masai Ujiri laughing at us anymore. We pulling back. We holding our cards. And whoever else we bring in, we're going to task them with the same responsibility. Hold those picks. Put together a team and figure out ways in which you not only can hold your picks, but the people that we draft, we develop them. So that was something else that was also key. Stop giving away our future and commit to the process of developing in-house. Tired of window shopping, looking for stars. Tired of trying to buy success overnight. This is what it needs to take in order to turn this thing in from the ground up. You got gold under your soil, under your feet. Work the land. So that's also part of the rebuild. And then lastly, there were a few other things. You got to get players who want to play in New York. We needed to get players who wanted to play in New York. That was an important, critical piece to the rebuild. And conversations that I will have with family members are this. There was an anti-New York bias taking place. And it still is. And part of it was because the New York Knicks were so terrible for so long. And there's a lot of stars during all the years that the Knicks were struggling. There were a lot of stars that came up in this league. The LeBron James, the Kyrie Irvings, whoever you can name those, the Kevin Durant's. A lot of stars who came up in this league and a lot of stars who weren't from New York. So they were born outside of New York, but they were also born in different regions of the country. So they was down to have that anti-New York bias. Because they ain't got love for New York, why should they? They ain't from there. So all of these years, we're seeing this talent bud up out of different places in the country other than New York. So when free agency came about, or the question came about, a free agent being the one to want to put that badge on their chest and say, listen, I want to at least be a building block to turning this thing around. As New Yorkers, we wished it. But reality was saying, Those cats ain't from here. They ain't got no commitment or no desire to want to come here and turn this thing around. They're afraid of the big city. They don't understand the get around and the maneuvering in traffic. They ain't built for this. So instead of just saying that, they join the chorus of clowning and humor against the New York Knicks. We got to continue to kick them as long as we can. Because one day, eventually, somebody's going to come along who have roots in New York, who have the heart and the spirit of New York, who's going to say, you know what? I ain't scared of you mother flippers. Shout out Bernie Mac. Somebody's going to step up to the plate and say, I ain't scared of you mother flippers. I'm down to step up for that challenge. So that was a major piece to this rebuild. Who's going to want to come play here? When you have your superstar, the face of the league, flipping bottles on Madison Square Garden floor. Listen, there's no biggest example of basketball, professional basketball disrespect than for you to come in a Mecca bottle flipping on the court while we still playing the game. Are you kidding me? You giving permission to give everybody permission to joke on us. You're saying that we're a national joke. And many of y'all cats want this dude at 39 playing on a team. Are y'all crazy? Y'all are crazy. Y'all smoking something. So that's also some of the things that we had to experience during this initial start to the rebuild. All right. Next, you had to get good character players. Not only do we have to get players who want to play in New York, but we got to get players who are also talented and who have good character. And some of you may look at me saying good character and look at me with the side eye, but look around the league. Is character important? You tell me, is character important? Look at what's happening. These dudes are young. So it's absolutely important to look at character because you are investing millions of dollars in these young players. There's a whole lot of pressure on them in other places. Imagine if they were in New York. Imagine if you get a young player who's in New York, and we have a team of young players in New York. So tell me the dollar value you place on a player with good character. So part of the rebuild is not only finding and developing skilled, potentially, good young players in this NBA league, but also to get players who are going to stand in good character. And lastly, you must do your best. You must do everything in your power to change the narrative for the New York Knicks. Because that narrative over the last 20 to 30 years is dysfunction, is instability, is poor ownership, toxicity, and overall, and most importantly, losing. The New York Knicks were losers. That's what the incoming front office and the coach were charged with when they came in and ultimately the hiring was taking place. That's what the owner of the team was charged with, finding someone who had the ability to come in and change all of that. All of it. And what I love about Knick fans is we were here every step of the way to go through this process with them. Formation of a team. How do you get there? How do you easily get rid of those veteran players that we talked about? How do you bring in the right people? What veterans do you keep? What veterans do you bring in? All of those are questions that the New York Knicks had to face and had to maneuver and answer. Are you drafting well? Are you developing the players that you draft? Remember Kevin Knox? Will you put together a team that's cohesive, that not only likes to play with each other, but they like each other as people outside of work? That is the goal that we're looking for. And then the pandemic took place. So I want to take you back to the pandemic because that's when the world changed for the New York Knicks. Y'all remember back when the pandemic broke out? If you remember back when the pandemic broke out, the part that sucked the most was when the NBA finally decided that they found a good formula under which they were going to bring teams back and have a tournament. It was called the bubble. There were certain teams that would be invited to this tournament. And we knew that we were bad. We knew that we were real middling, that we didn't have anything that was promising towards us. But we, like every other team, wanted to be part of this tournament. It was almost a reset button that was pressed. And we was just like, listen, man, if we get in this tournament, maybe we can make some noise. And the NBA said, nah, son, nah. You wildin'. And they decided not to invite the New York Knicks. And to me, that's probably one of the best things that the NBA could have did for the New York Knicks. Because it was at that moment that the Knicks had a pivot moment. Shout out to the pivot. That was the moment where the New York Knicks said, listen, maybe it's best that we weren't in this tournament because we got a lot to focus on. We are not where we need to be. So that was the summer of 2020, the spring going into the summer of 2020, where the New York Knicks had to pivot and start to get their house in order. So if y'all reflect back on that time, we didn't get invited to the play-in tournament, so that gave us more time to focus on who are we going to bring in to help put together this new front office. So in March 2020, the New York Knicks would hire Leon Rose. New York Knicks would hire Leon Rose. And I remember that there was such a chatter that was going about in media. It was a chatter that was going about in many circles. The Knicks are thinking about hiring Leon Rose. That might be a great look because you know he's connected with former players. We see how it's working in LA. The Lakers are rolling right now. He was able to swing a deal for AD. Rob Pelinka is doing this thing. Maybe the new wave is former player agents. You know Leon Rose is connected to LeBron James. You know Leon Rose has all these connections with Chris Paul and CAA. So the Knicks decided that was a unique step, a different step. They had a lot of experienced people who they had interviewed. But they went along with Leon Rose. And it was a unique hire, and it was relatively quick by Jim Dolan. So now the New York Knicks took a half step towards being part of the modern NBA by stepping outside of the box and bringing in a person to put together a team that would make up the front office, a former agent, someone who had a great reputation around the league, but someone who clearly had zero experience being in the role that he would occupy. So that left a lot of meat on the bone for commentators and pontificators to try to pick apart why this was another bad decision the New York Knicks would make. But needless to say, in March 2020, Leon Rose was hired as the new president of basketball operations for the New York Knicks. Okay? The next move, actually, when that decision was made, this was the comment that Jim Dolan, the CEO and owner of the New York Knicks, CEO of Madison Square Garden, owner of the New York Knicks, would ultimately come up with a statement. And the statement he would put out is as follows. He said, "We are confident that he, being Leon Rose, brings the right combination of expertise and relationships to ensure the long-term success of our franchise." I'll repeat it again. He said, "We are confident he brings the right combination of expertise and relationships to ensure the long-term success of our franchise." New York Knicks fans aren't known for giving Jim Dolan much credit. But a statement like that after hiring Leon Rose sounds a little bit like he's a visionary. It sounds a little bit like he hired the person and there was a particular mission and a goal that he wanted to reach, and this guy qualified to reach that goal. And if we fast forward to today, is he on track to reach it? Is he on track to reach it? It's the question. So next up, there was July 2020, and the New York Knicks needed to hire a new coach. And after an extended process of interviewing multiple candidates, the New York Knicks moved in the direction that many thought they would by hiring Tom Thibodeau, former assistant coach for the New York Knicks, former head coach for the Chicago Bulls, former head coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves, and very good friend, longtime friend of Leon Rose. So the New York Knicks would go on to hire Tom Thibodeau. And this decision would set the NBA ablaze. Because at that time, when the New York Knicks hired Tom Thibodeau, our team was already in shambles. They had got a little bit of organization with Mike Miller, but prior to Mike Miller taking over, we were disheveled, we were disorganized, we were terrible, we were playing terrible basketball, we weren't playing together, we had a lot of one-on-one players. We were all over the place, and that was indicative of years of poor play, years of bad habits, years of no culture, no direction, no discipline. So when Tom Thibodeau was hired, many Knicks fans felt good about it because we felt if there's nothing else that we know he brings, he has an ability to come into a situation and turn things around. It was almost like unanimous. One of the rare times Knicks Twitter and Knicks Nation is all on the same page. But it was one of the rare times where we thought we knew Tom Thibodeau may not get to the mountaintop with us, but he will get us most of the way up that mountaintop. Simply with the type of person he's a no-nonsense coach. He comes in, he's going to preach defense. He's going to look for defensive players, and he has a history of winning. Now with Tom Thibodeau and with Leon Rose in place, both are now met with this one challenge. They both are responsible for putting together two good teams. So for the front office, Leon Rose needed to build up who his team was going to be. Should he go along and keep Scott Perry on his staff? Should he promote Allen Houston? Who else was he going to bring in to ultimately make up his team? All right. Eventually, he would go out and he would form what many now are considering the Avengers, a super team, so to speak, in a front office capacity. He would go on and keep Scott Perry, who was part of the previous regime, but who at the last minute, they were really starting to think logically and think soundly as a front office when they decided we want to select players who want to be here. We want to recruit players who want to be here. And not only that, we want to keep our draft picks. So it was a fail when we went out in that free agent market and we missed and swung on a lot of those phenomenal players. KD, Kyrie. And we ended up with Julius Randle. And we say we ended up with Julius Randle, but Julius Randle wanted to be here. And all of us can simply say he wanted to be here because of the paycheck. And that could be 99.9% true. But not many people are going to be willing to sign on a dotted line, knowing what comes with being a star in New York, knowing what comes with being a player in New York. Then we drafted RJ Barrett that year. But it was important that Leon Rose put together a team that he trusted, a team that he knew would think outside of the box to get to where it is that we needed to go, and a team in terms of the front office that was proven and that were experts at what it was that they did. So then you seen that there was a worldwide West that was added. And Nobody, I mean, Worldwide West was mysterious. Everybody was just like, I don't know, like who. And we hear about this dude, but nobody knows what he even looks like. Then we started seeing him, and we was just like, all we knew is all the players knew him. No matter what room within the NBA or outside of the NBA, Jay-Z was bringing him up and name dropping him in songs. This dude was the most popular dude, and we had no idea what he did. But we knew he was part of the New York Knicks organization now. And then they went out and they got the cap guard from Cleveland. The young professional from Cleveland who was in charge of the cap, who did all of the machinations around having LeBron come back to Cleveland on a team that had Kyrie, on a team that had Kevin Love, and to be able to put pieces together around them and made it work cap-wise. We went and we got that young man and had him come to join our organization. And then on the other side, in terms of Tibbs was now charged with putting together a team and answering a lot of the questions that were the bane of the existence and were some of the reasons why other teams wouldn't hire Tibbs. Was some of the main reasons why when NBA players took a poll about a coach they don't want to play for, they selected this man. They said it was this guy. Oh no, we don't want to play with Tibbs. He's going to burn our knees out. He's going to burn our knees out. We don't want to play with that guy. Nah, man, we're going to have 17-hour practices. We ain't playing with that guy. He leans into his veterans too much. He don't play no young guys. If you just got drafted, don't go there. He ain't going to play you. So Tom Thibodeau was now met with the front office, and because they're friends, that communication was free and open. It was just like, yo, come on, man. If you come in here, you're going to have to be able to listen to some of the suggestions that we put forth. We're going to give you the autonomy. You got a contract. It'll be 5 years. We're going to let you cook. But you got to listen to us when we shopping as well. And Tom Thibodeau agreed to that. But something else that I'm super proud of with Tom Thibodeau is he hired a coach like Mike Woodson to be on his team. A former head coach, but a head coach nonetheless to be on your staff. It's important to have other voices in the circle who've been there, who can see the floor as well as you and give input. He hired Johnny Bryant. He was able to recruit Johnny Bryant, a young and up-and-coming, great reputation as a future coach in the NBA. We went out and plucked him from Utah. Like, these are all ingredients to a main dish that's not yet ready. It's not yet ready. We're in the final stages. We're in like the last hour to hour and a half before the meal is completely cooked. But those are all the ingredients that you have to shop for, and you have to start mixing up before you even put in a pot to put into the oven. Both of them did very well in terms of formulating teams of coaches and front office personnel that helped put us in this position to be successful. And all of that came out of that July 2020 decision to hire Tom Thibodeau as the next coach. Once again, don't know if he's going to get to the mountaintop with us, but we know that he's going to get us most of the way up the mountaintop. Now, how is he going to do that? I'm glad you asked that question. So with the front office, everybody knew that Tom Thibodeau came with his tenants. So these are Tibbs' tenants. This is what you know, that when he said, I want a roster that's going to help me win in this league. This is what I need to see as skill sets that are in the members that are on the roster for my New York Knicks. 1, they need to know how to rebound the basketball. 2, they need to be willing to play defense. 3, we need to have them commit low turnovers. 4, they need to know how to share the basketball. 5, they need to be willing to pass. and penetrate. And 6, they need to be willing to utilize the paint. Whether that's passing the basketball or passing within the lane, or hitting your layups, or being flexible and skilled around the basket, they need to know how to utilize the paint. Floaters are included on that as well. All right. So everybody knows that these are Tibbs's tenets. And when you think about it right now, just fast forwarding and looking at the roster, with this in mind, rebounding, playing defense, having low turnovers, sharing the basketball, utilizing the paint, passing and penetration. We look at the people who are on the team. Shout out to Knicks Movement. Love this picture, so I utilized it. So shout out to the members of this team. We got Mitch, who we drafted and who we cultivated. We have JB, who we picked up last offseason. We got Julius and RJ, who came in together. One drafted, one signed as a free agent. And these are 4 of the members of our team that we're going to look at when we think about what Tibbs's tenets are for success. And what I did was I pulled up most of the roster. So when we look at Randall, you think, okay, Randall brings scoring. He checks off the box with the rebounding. He does check off the box with the paint penetration, minus the spinning and sending. And he also is capable of passing the basketball. All right. When you think of RJ Barrett, you know RJ Barrett, one of his main skills is downhill, attacking the basket, penetrating. All right. Also, he does have an ability as well to share the basketball. And lastly, RJ scores. May not be through shooting all the time, but RJ is a scorer. We look at Grimes. Grimes brings defense. He brings the ability to penetrate the basketball, but he also brings shooting as well. Jalen Brunson as our point guard, probably one of the most complete decisions in terms of bringing him to our roster. Jalen Brunson brings low turnover at the point guard position, 100% important. He brings the ability to score. He brings paint penetration and the ability to pass. Mitchell Robinson, we know, plays defense. He uses the paint. He rebounds the basketball. And for the most part, he keeps turnovers low because he has a high percentage of finishing around the basket when he gets the basketball. Then we have Obi Toppin. And this is what's going to cause some questions. When we talk about who will be here for the long term and who won't be, these are some of the things that we got to consider, because how many of these players have most of the tenets that Tom Thibodeau asked for? When I think of Obi Toppin, I think he shares the basketball and he's good in transition. Now, we talked about Tibbs like in rebounding. Does Obi bring that? No. We talk about scoring. Does Obi bring that consistently? We really don't know because he hasn't been given a sufficient shot. We talk about passing the basketball. We talk about paint penetration. Does Obi do all of that? Any of that? So those are things to kind of consider. When we talk about Jay Hart, he brings defense. He rebounds the basketball at the guard position. He shares the basketball and he penetrates. Okay? He penetrates. So those are things to kind of consider as well. When we talk about Emmanuel Quickly, he scores, he plays defense, he penetrates the paint, and he also, when given the opportunity, low turnovers. Okay? Ihart plays defense, he rebounds the basketball, he plays in the paint as well. We look at Deuce. Deuce brings defense and he shares the ball at the point guard position. That may or may not be enough. And then we have Jericho Sims, who all of us we know is pretty raw. But he brings defense and he brings paint play. Okay? So in looking at our team, we have no choice to say, okay, we see what we have. So where are we? Where are we when it comes to this 5-year plan? And this is what I absolutely love. Because when I knew when the front office brought Tom Thibodeau on, this is what I imagined the conversation was going to be. All right, Tom, listen, your first year, we're going to let you come in. We're going to let you look at the team. This is the evaluation period. Everybody is going to have a clean slate. Many of the players that we give you to start this first season with, they're going to be well aware that they have just as good of a shot as anybody to make this team and be part of the future. But you earn your minutes. And that's what he told the players. He said, listen, You'll play everybody. If you get minutes, you earn them. So everybody was going at each other. We know Nerlens Noel came in. He said, listen, I see young fella. I see Mitchell Robinson. He's impressive. But I do the same thing that he does. And I have experience. So I think I'm going to compete for that starting position. So everybody was going at it. And that's the reason why we overachieved in that first year. Because everybody was battling and making each other better. So we rode that ship as far as we could take it. But that team had very minimal talent. They were just going off of the strength of new coach. Everybody wanted to impress this new coach, and nobody wanted to let this new coach down, and everybody wanted to play. And that brought up a heightened level of competition that's been missing kind of the last 2 seasons. All right? But that was the first year. You come in and you evaluate. And then the front office will tell Tom Thibodeau the second year, we'll determine who goes. So we're going to move some pieces out, and we're going to play with and see who we could bring in. Now, the front office didn't expect Tom Thibodeau to turn everything around so fast. Coach of the year in the first year, come on. But what they did was they were feeling themselves, and without getting on the same page as their coach, they pulled Alfred Payton and UNC Bullock. They pulled them out. Defense, but was giving us nothing offensively at the number 1 and number 2. So teams were playing off of them and able to double team a Julius. So let's pull them out. Let's get a point guard that can get us assists but can also score. Let's get a wing who can score. All right? And let's put them around Julius. Let's see if we could build this thing around Julius and see where it goes. And it went into the tank. It went into the toilet. It bubbled. It circled. It got clogged for a moment. We had to plunge that thing, and then it went down. That's how the season went. So they thought it would be an additional step in year 2, but it wasn't. And we struggled that season. But that season was important because you need to see how players respond under adversity. You needed to see how players respond under adversity. And it was a real challenging season for Julius Randle and the whole New York Knicks team. Nobody enjoys losing. Nobody enjoys the highs of the high in New York, and then you have to endure the lowest of the lows when you lose. Nobody enjoys that. So that was year 2. And Tom Thibodeau was being looked at as, okay, this is your challenge now. Are you a winning coach or are you a losing coach? So we had to endure that season and see what we can pull from that season, what positives we could possibly pull, and what are we going to do going into year 3? Is Julius the right fit for us? He's imploded several times. He's contentious with teammates and the fans. Do we keep him or do we stick to the plan? Do we plan the work and work the plan? So we know that the changes the New York Knicks made, they kept Julius. And they said, you know what? Actually, they became pretty close. What should we do? Should we keep him or should we move forward and get somebody else? Should we start Obi? So year 3 is a time where we say, okay, we want to add a piece. And this is why I said in the summertime that we needed a signature move. Okay? So part of the 5-year plan, when you started putting this team together, it was the perfect time for the New York Knicks to go through all of these changes. And this is why when you're talking about looking for a new coach now, I'm like, what are y'all talking about? That's going to set us back like 2 or 3 years. When we had to do that rebuild of getting a new front office and getting a new coach and sending veterans off and drafting and building the young players, the timing has to be right. And for us, it was perfect because the league was being dominated by players such as KD and Kyrie, by players such as the Golden State Warriors, had an MMA chokehold on the NBA. So whether or not we thought we would be competitive, we're not beating those teams. Those are some of the things we had to be concerned about. So it was a perfect time for the New York Knicks to go through all the changes that they would have to go through in order to at least reset and start to build a solid foundation and build the house upward. Golden State Warriors were dumb. There was no way you were getting around them. And this man here has been doing what he's been doing for 20 years. So I always said, when we brought in the play, I'm like, man, we have a new front office and Tom Thibodeau. If we don't fire the coach for the first time in like 30 years, if we just stick with a coach and see how it feels to have stability in an organization, trust me, I've led organizations. And the biggest thing you will hear from your employees is that turnover is high. People are not satisfied. People think they're going to get the axe. But what happens when you have a leader that comes in and stabilizes the market, where people are secure? They're still working hard, but they're secure that the moment they struggle, they're not going to be given the axe. You see how it affects Obi. When Obi gets minutes in the game and he makes a mistake and then his eyes dart towards the sideline. Well, that's the same thing that happens as an organization. When you hit a little bit of speed bump in the road and then the fan base is ready to give you the axe, you guys are just as, all of you are little James Dolans. That's what you are. Basically, you little Jim Dolans. Were you ready to kick all the Oakleys out because they disagree with you or they do something different? But this is what stability looks like. And when we hired him and they gave him a 5-year contract, I said, look, that's perfect. I see what you're doing. You're giving him 5 years, which means he must have came in and laid out a 5-year plan. And if he's a coach and he's smart, he'd be like, listen, I want a no-fire rule. If players could get no trade clauses, I want a no-fire clause. Give me 5 years to turn this around and evaluate me in the 5th year. And let me go if I can't do what it is that I said I'm going to do each year. Year number 1, give me an opportunity to come in, evaluate what we have, work with these players, talk to these players, hear where their heads are at, and determine if they're part of the core. And little by little, they was giving us hints. Both Tom Thibodeau and the front office, they said, you know what? We think in terms of cornerstones, Mitchell Robinson and RJ Barrett are good cornerstones. And they're right. Because there was the defensive center with the level of athleticism and bounciness that Mitch brought to the table in the Tom Thibodeau coach team, it was rare. Okay, he got the goods. Tibbs, can you chip that away and chisel that to make it what it is you need? Bet. RJ Barrett, you got a 3 who has an ability to score. Tibbs, can you mold? Is he malleable enough? Can you create a Jimmy Butler into that with that player? What can you do with him? Cornerstones that are already in-house. So they was thinking that way as well. So year 1 is the evaluation process. Year 2 is the slight tweaks. All right, we need to kind of balance this out. My veterans are important because they're going to set the example for the young players, which is why we all complained when the young players weren't getting no burn in years 1, 2, or 3. And Tibbs was leaning on these veterans, not knowing one day those young players are going to be Tibbs's veterans. Tibbs is about trust. I need to put together a game plan. I need you to practice just as hard as you play in the game. And I need that to be part of the establishment of the culture. We work hard here. There's no other players that I trust to pass that message than my former Bulls players. So let me go get Taj Gibson. Let me go get Derrick Rose. Let me bring them and show these players what I mean. But also let them know there's a method behind my madness. So that's what they did as an organization. They brought in the former Bulls players and they set the tone and they were respected by these young players. You got a former MVP who came in and helped drive you to the playoffs. There was no better lining up of the stars for us to have Derrick Rose come in and impact the team so much that it helped us get to the playoffs in Tibbs' first year. For him to be in a position now, all of those players have no choice but to listen and respect him because he showed it. He showed what he can do as a player who is on the downside of his career. Now that's our vet. Everybody in the league loves Derrick Rose. He's our vet. We told him that he was going to sit this season. It hurt, but he said, I don't want to be traded. So in year 3 or 4, that's when you established a culture. What does it look like? Do the players enjoy playing with each other? Are you making progress? Are you seeing development? Now, year 3, the sum of year 3, obviously didn't work out the way we wanted to, but we were positioned because of our fiscal responsibility, because of our draft picks, we were positioned to make a move and get a player. We were positioned to look at free agency and say, listen, we got a little bit of money. And we didn't even have the money, but we had someone in the organization who was in charge of the financials who moved some things around. Listen, if we trade these veterans on draft day, you may not get a draft pick, but it'll free up money so you can get a free agent. And we might have to push off draft picks for another year. And Knicks fans, we didn't know what the hell was going on. So we sitting around twiddling our thumbs. I had a damn video party. I had my family on one side. I had the ops on the call because I was ready to tap dance on their grave, tap dance in their face when we made a great move. And it didn't happen. And Knicks fans were sitting there staring at the TV with crickets. Crickets. And all you heard me thinking was,
This bitch.
and they was laughing at me. But we didn't know what was going on at the time. And the next thing you know, they said the New York Knicks are close to signing a point guard. And this is why this period is an important period for the New York Knicks organization. Because the one thing the New York Knicks have never had since Mark Jackson, since Steph Marbury, but none of them point guards really led to winning, was a point guard for the New York Knicks. And we had an opportunity to get one, but they still didn't know what he was. Still didn't know what he was. But around this time, when we had the opportunity to get that point guard, we started realizing, you know what, Golden State is winning more than anybody else. You know, Giannis just kind of came in and snuck a championship. LeBron is always there, but he's not winning at the same rate that he used to be. Is the league changing? Is that window about to open where somebody else can emerge and there can be a change of the guard? LeBron's sun is beginning to set. Maybe we need to speed it up and make some type of move so we can make sure that the moment he leaves, we are right where we need to be to resurrect this franchise. So that summer was so important for a lot of things. And it was the perfect time for the New York Knicks to emerge. So the New York Knicks went out and got the point guard that they needed. The New York Knicks made it known that Jalen Brunson was on their radar. Maybe they made it known too well that he was on the radar. They did too much. They did too much. They showed up at the game scouting. And all they could say to Mark Cuban was, sorry, bro. Sorry, bro. Mark Cuban was like, tampering. Okay? But it didn't matter because they didn't hold up their end. They didn't take care of their business. And the New York Knicks were able to secure a point guard a point guard with the skill set that Jalen Brunson has. A point guard who just that past playoff series impressed the world as a player who had just been inserted into the starting lineup that season, but historically was a backup. So because it's New York, everybody has something to say. Everybody has some type of criticism. Or the New York Knicks are going for the extra small backcourt. Oh, Donovan, he's not Donovan Mitchell, but he just went tit for tat with Donovan Mitchell and eliminated Donovan Mitchell. But when the word got out that the New York Knicks were aiming at Donovan Mitchell and they might secure Jalen Brunson, then the first thing they said is, that's a short backcourt. That's not going to work. Always changing the goalpost for the New York Knicks. So something that had to be impressive that's often overlooked by Knicks fans is the ability to have two sets of conversations taking place. You're working the angle with Jalen Brunson, and then you're ultimately inserted into the negotiations with Donovan Mitchell and several other teams. And as you see reports coming out now, we were really close in getting Donovan Mitchell as well. What would we look like if we had Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson? We would never know. I don't even want to dive into that. But the beauty of it was that we had a front office who was engaged in those talks. And because it didn't go through, our natural inclination is always to say it's something we failed to do. We see the players now. We put them out there. And we heard the other team say, well, who is this? We don't know anything about Quickly. Like, what type of value? You guys are valuing their players. That's what I was hearing from opposing Knicks fans. From opposers of New York Knicks organization and their fans. That's what I was hearing. That we overvalue our players aren't as good as we think they are. So we had to deal with that. Let me take off this. So we had to deal with a lot of that BS. My bad, y'all. I'm gonna be speaking in auto-tune. Trying to turn this new stuff off. There we go. All right, there we go. We back to normal. So we ultimately got our point guard that we were looking for. And we didn't really know what we got. We just know, all right, finally, okay, we got somebody at the point guard position. And what I absolutely love about this front office, they thought they were slick. They already know New York fans are the most knowledgeable fans in the world. They know we're going to do our Googles. So I had already put together a video. Go check out that video paid in full that I did on Jalen Brunson. Go check that out. I did a great job. I was comprehensive. I talked about his Elijah Wan foot package, his feet's movement. That man layup package is on steroids. His efficiency was up. His ability to penetrate, his dribble, the fact that he has an unorthodox imbalance to his dribble package that keeps everybody like guessing. He's our point guard now. So I already knew what we getting. I had already said that. After watching and doing the research to put that video together, I said, that's my new player. That's my new favorite player. He's going to be a problem in New York, and New York is going to love him. Yo, New York Knicks fans, many of us, we were crapping on him. Stop playing. Stop acting. Look. You know who you are. Everybody was just like, why we give him like a max contract? He ain't no max player. Yo, y'all were going in on this cat. The way y'all was on Twitter, it sounded like this. Yeah. That's the New York round of applause that you was giving to. More? What? More? You ain't done? You pulling something else out? That's how y'all sounded on Twitter. And I remember going to the ops because I mean, y'all had me convinced. I'm like, damn, did I just do this 2 days research and put together this video? But the way New York Knicks fans talking about it, maybe I'm missing something. So I go to the Dallas Mavericks fan pages and they laughing at us as a fan base. Yo, they are laughing at us. It was just like, yo, they don't know basketball, bro. Apparently they ain't been watching what we've been watching. He grew up with us. We drafted him. He grew here. He got better here. They didn't want to let him go. They were pissed at their front office for letting someone of that caliber go. And then our front office was just like, he's just a piece. He is not the savior. He's just a piece. So Knicks fans, we don't want you putting that on him because they didn't know how he would handle the pressure that we would put on him if he was identified as a major piece. If we looked at his skill set and identified for ourselves, this man is a superstar in the making. And I'll be honest with you, I got to give credit. I applaud that. The front office has enough foresight to know the type of fan base they have, and they didn't want us to put that pressure on him just yet. They want to try to get him some help. They want to at least give him a season where he's allowed to make mistakes because that pressure hit a little bit different in New York. But we ended up getting our point guard, so that was a major step. That was a signature move, and Leon's first signature move, getting Tom Thibodeau a floor general. Ultimately, Jalen Brunson started reaching out to fans, reaching out to teammates, letting himself be known. Do y'all remember those runs in the summertime? Y'all remember those runs that weren't televised, but everybody was talking about it, right? Yo, Trae Young and DeJounte Murray, they killing it in these rec leagues, these summer leagues. Oh, the New York Knicks, so now they got a point guard. So, Julius is showing up and RJ is showing up with their new point guard, Jalen Brunson. Y'all remember what happened? They weren't gelling. They just went out there for fun. But the NBA world was killing them. The New York Knicks, they're the same old Knicks. They lost to a bunch of people who walked in off the street. Y'all remember that? Y'all remember those summer runs? Yeah, doesn't it feel like Jalen Brunson has been with us for like 2 years already? This is only the first year. And he walked in and said, yo, Jules, meet me here. Yo, RJ, meet me here, or whoever. Let's see if we can get a little bit of chemistry. Let's see what we can do. But the NBA world was ready for the instantaneous. They saw it in Trae Young and DeJounte Murray, not knowing that they're already good friends. So they probably played together already. But even if they knew that, they wouldn't care because it was another opportunity to kick the New York Knicks. So this man came in and he did his best to say, you know what? I'm going to apply my leadership. I'm just going to be me. I ain't trying to be anything extra. We're going to work. And what the New York Knicks ultimately did was they found a point guard who really complemented the team. A point guard who came in with the skill set that was on an all-star type level, that has superstar type potential, but a humility and a personality, humble enough, intelligent enough, basketball IQ, general IQ, leadership IQ out of this universe, out of this stratosphere, to be able to say, all right, Julius, we're going to build you up. All right, RJ, I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to calm everybody down with things that the wheels start looking like they're going to fall off. I know how to do that. And I'm connected and close enough with the coach so that the coach is probably calling me saying, yo, listen, this is what you're going to expect. This is what you're going to need to do with this guy. This guy over here, you could be a little bit more tough. So shout out, kudos to the front office. Kudos to the coach for identifying this young man as the point guard. There's a lot of intangibles that he brought to the table that no other player could have brought to the table. DeJounte Murray wouldn't have lasted in a Knicks jersey. He wouldn't have had the same impact. Donovan Mitchell would have been too hyped. He would have had that similar mellow type of flow where you got all that energy in to be the man, to be that person that brings, the oohs and ahs. He would have struggled in his first year in New York. Only a player such as this, the point guard, Jalen Brunson, has the mettle to be able to endure what he endured and still exceed in his first year. Still exceed. So it was key that we had that signature move. I don't care what anybody says. His performance this year was out of this world. So the New York Knicks proved that not only they could sign a free agent, but that they could draft talented, character type of players. You got a player such as IQ, who we've seen this season take his game to another level. And there's stages. Many of you will say, yeah, but he ain't show up in the playoffs. Well, mother flippers, stop. Listen, you put your food in the microwave for a minute and it's frozen, it ain't going to be cooked. Just because you put it in the microwave don't mean it's going to be ready when you take it out. So you got to put it back in there, leave it a little bit longer, and be patient so that it cooks and you can enjoy your meal. Many of you got microwave mentalities. You got air fryer desires, and it's not fitting with our timeline. We're about to go into year 4. Now, because it's year 4, it's a different story. I'm going to get it. I'm going to get to that. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. But the type of development that's taking place, y'all continue not to give Tom Thibodeau credit. Y'all continue not to give his coaching staff credit. They're working with these players. They're challenging these players. They're giving them game plans. They're making them participate in summer league. They're telling them exactly what they're needing from them. They're giving them roles to play. They're telling them exactly what they're needing from them. And the players are responding. That's a major thing. It's been part of our history for that 25-year period of losing. And we see it in other organizations where the players simply tune out the coach and they no longer respect them. And something we've seen consistently with this coach is that someone always has an ear towards the coach. Even when one or two decide to stray, the majority of the group pull them back in and get them refocused and locked in on the goal. And that's culture. That's a respect to know that the coach is going to work more hard than the players. So if he's working as hard, then you got to do your part. That's why the reputation, no matter what they say about not wanting to play for coach, anybody who played for Coach Tibbs say they always are the most prepared. From Kevin Garnett to Joakim Noah. So the development piece, y'all got to start putting some respect on Tibbs' name. We even talking about Mitchell Robinson. Y'all saw him this year. Y'all saw him last year. It was a contract year last year, but that was the first year he pushed through those injuries because he wanted to get the bag. He got nicked up. He would fall, hit these. Any other time we would see him fall, bang his elbow, he's out for the game. Now he got up, he shook that off. He was just like, I got to work my way through it. Of course, he's a big man, so there's going to be a couple of games that he does miss. But for the most part, he made it through that season as much as he could. The season before, he missed the playoffs, so he never got the taste of that. Last season, that season after that, we were terrible, so we missed the playoffs again. This season, he said, I want to know what it feels like when I'm a piece that's part of the team and whether or not we win or lose. And we see what he produced. This season, he came into his own. He started realizing he found the perfect weight to play at. He started measuring himself and knowing how to slow the game down and start looking at the schedule and studying his opponents. And you know when your development starts to get on point, when the ops start calling you the best at what it is that you do in the league. You know, we got to keep Mitchell Robinson off the boards. He's a beast on the offensive boards. Or when they take a little shot and try to trash talk, you know the confidence is where it's supposed to be when he comes back and he says, yeah, how'd that turn out for you? That's development. That's when you're embodying what the coach has already laid down. Many of us wanted to get him out of here. Yeah, we want offense at that spot, whatever have you. Listen, man, that's almost like you guys at Christmas when you open up your gifts and you mad because you didn't want clothes. I wanted the whatever. I wanted the toy. Why do I got clothes? Well, sometimes for the moment, it's all about what you need as opposed to what you want. We need Mitchell Robinson to establish who we are and to get to where it is we need to go. If something pops up that's completely blowing it out of the water better, and we have access to it, then we make the move. But this young man, he was from the mud. He's ours. And he's doing his part to improve. You're talking about he don't, shoot, his game ain't expanding. He even if that's not his role, he's stating it. He's letting y'all know that's something he's willing to work on. Free throws. He's part of history making those 2 big-time free throws when they tried to hack a Shaq him. These kids are working their tail off, and they're continuing to get better every year. And we're about to enter year 4 and 5 of the 5-year plan. And that brings me to my next point. The dawn of a new era. So very recently, Carmelo Anthony announced his retirement. Shortly thereafter, LeBron James is on a team that got swept by the Denver Nuggets. A team who is probably going to win the championship this year. And a team that we're hoping is not going to be the next dynasty or the next San Antonio Spurs or whoever. Have the capability of doing so because their young players are going to be in a position to compete for a championship. Now that's championship experience for them. Michael Porter Jr. is one of those type of players that when he's in the finals, he might show up and show out. So what we don't want to do is have a LeBron James get ready to retire, a Carmelo Anthony retire, Steph Curry and them on the way out. Giannis not quite sure, what he's going to do in Milwaukee because he got a new coach. We don't want to let this opportunity pass. It's the dawn of a new era, and it's year 4 and 5. It's show and prove for the front office and Tom Thibodeau now. Prior to years 1 through 3, you guys wasted a lot of energy calling for Tibbs to be fired, questioning Leon Rose. Why ain't you speaking to the media? Why ain't you speaking to us? Well, they've been able to produce at a high level over a period of 3 years without talking to you. But I'm with you now. Year 4 and 5 is the show and prove years. It is. Because what they've shown between years 1 and 3 is the fact that they can make the playoffs 2 out of the 3 years. That they can take these pieces and encourage them and motivate them and build them up enough and develop them enough that they can make the playoffs 2 out of 3 years when everybody predicted that they wouldn't. When nobody predicted them to win 30 games in the first season. And when they predicted us to win 37 games in this season. How we exceeded all of the expectations. That's year 1 through 3. And then we were able to acquire a point guard who this season, it's in and of itself, has shown that he's ready to take his game to another stratosphere. That he was shown if he had a player of equal or greater talent, he would have been labeled a superstar because he would have had more opportunities in the conference finals and potentially in the finals to be able to show what he can do on the largest stage. He is a primetime player who makes primetime, big-time plays in big-time games. He was robbed of an opportunity to do that this year. If 3 shots were made by Quentin Grimes in any particular game in this season, if there were like a 31 to a 33-point game from Julius Randle in any one of any of the games this season, an additional one, we would have been playing in the next round. This man single-handedly, with some help from RJ, I don't want to disrespect it, and the team, everybody plays their role, but this man shows you that he's not a backup player. He shows you he's just not a game manager. He's a game changer. And he's on our team. And the front office acquired him, developed him, saw potential in him when the other teams didn't see it. When the experts didn't see it, they saying they didn't see it. We always window shop and say, why couldn't we get a Jokic in the 3rd round? Well, God damn it, we got one at point guard. Start acting like your point guard is a superstar, because he showed you that he is. We so blinded and so fixated on looking at the negative with the team and what we don't have that you don't see what's in front of you. And then it doesn't stop with the point guard. Let's look at his let's look at these numbers. This is stupid. Let me get it better for you. So, shout out to Brunson Muse. Shout out to all the Muse channels that he's creating. Does great work. But he says players to average 25, 5, and 5 in his first 10 playoff games with a franchise. Oscar Robertson, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Vince Carter, shout out to Prestige New York. I know I'm going to hear about that later. Tracy McGrady, Kawhi Leonard, Ja Morant, and Luka Doncic, and now Jalen Brunson. Correct me if I'm wrong. Are any of those people on the list superstars or legends? Yes, the last name mentioned. Put some respect on your own point guard's name. This man was a savage, and he's shown himself to be. He needs help now. He needs help now. 2nd round. In the 3rd year, made it to the 2nd round of the semi-conference finals. So yes, this is the dawn of a new era. It's year 4 and year 5. RJ's shown an ability to step up and to perform on the largest stage. We need more consistency, but you see a player that we didn't include in the trade. You saw his performance. You saw his ability to step up and to be part as needed of the formula to win. He showed he was ready. He sees that he got a player who's ready to take it to another level. He's going to step up where he can. And that's got to be promising. It has to be. Now, the other player is Julius Randle. And everybody's got something to say about this trio. Will this trio work? Will it work with Julius Randle to get us to where we need to go? Championship contending. Championship winners. Can we do it with Julius? Now, there's a lot to be said about that. And this is my take. We could do it either way. I don't think we're going to get to a championship with Julius Randle on this team unless somebody else either elevates their game or we bring in another player who plays at the same level of Jalen Brunson or better. And then Julius is the 3rd option. That's the only way we win at the level of a championship team with Julius Randle on the roster. That's the only way. We already got past the point where we're competitive. We're at the point now where we championship contending. We showed that this year. We had an opportunity to be contending for a championship. The level of parity is ridiculous in the NBA right now. It's wide open, which is why it was so frustrating for many Knicks fans. It is wide open. Now, if we stay with Julius, this is what I am begging Tom Thibodeau to do. Begging him to do. I may even take a trip out to Connecticut. Coach Tibbs, we need to talk. I brought some video with me. I know you love film. This is a bonding moment. I brought some video with me. Hey, what you got there, Sheer? I'm glad you asked, Coach. I got videotape of John Stockton and Karl Malone. If Julius Randle, if the coaching staff reviews every game as Tom Thibodeau says he does, if you watch every game this season, somebody in that coaching room, and I'm talking about that somebody is Johnny Bryant. You coming from Utah, mother flipper. I know you don't want to watch game tapes. I know you done looked at the legends. You better be able to say, Stockton and Malone, goddammit, why don't we do the pick and roll? We got a point guard, and we got a more talented, a more nimble and skilled power forward with the same type of frame as Karl Malone. Why aren't we doing pick and rolls? You have Raymond Felton and Steve Nash running the pick and roll with their bigs. You know how surgical those two would be if Mike D'Antoni was able to have Julius Randle and a point guard? So if I'm being honest, and I know I'm trying to think, I may not know basketball as well as many of you. I may not know sets and what will work in today's NBA. But I know there got to be teams out there running the pick and roll. I know Clint Capella and Trey Young is doing it. Pick and roll them to death. It was the major state. I mean, Raymond Felton and Amari Stoudemire, they were getting so good at it. Amari had like a run of 9 straight or 10 straight or something, 25-point games. Y'all remember that? Imagine Julius. We got the point guard. Imagine how much of a problem, or Obi. Imagine what Obi would be if he put in a system with D'Antoni and the pick and roll with a good point guard. So that's the change, man. I'm like, well, I don't see enough pick and rolls or slip pick and pops with Julius. So if he stays, that's what I would recommend. That's what I would recommend. But honestly speaking, I just think it's time for him to go. I think it's time for him to go. I know you can't replace 25 and 10. I know there's people who was calling for Julius's job throughout the whole year, but now they backtrack it so they could be on both sides of the fence and be like, it's not easy to replace 25 and 10. I think we should give him honestly speaking, my take is this. Year 4 and 5, it's time to show improve. Front office, you have an opportunity now to look at your team, evaluate your team, consider all of the offers that were made throughout the whole year, so you know what players are available. You did everything right. Financially, we were in the right place. Draft picks wise, we're in the right place. Organizationally, you made us healthy. But this year, you know what our needs are. So it's your job to help us address those needs. Tom Thibodeau, it's your job to address the players. What do you want to see them work on? But what players are going to be part of the major, what are their roles going to be next year? Will there be players currently on the team that showed you they had the ability to do more? Will they get more role, a bigger role in the offense? That's your job. That's your job not to stunt the growth of Emmanuel Quickly when you know he's 1 year away from being a restricted free agent. Don't stunt his growth. Are you going to place him in a position to take his game to another level and be successful? It's your job to increase the role of Quentin Grimes. Quentin Grimes looks scared to step outside of what it is that he normally does. He'll have stretches where he is creative and driving to the basket. And then he'll have other stretches where he's just posted on the wing or posted outside of the three-point line. And you like, drive that thing, bro. We see that you have that ability and you're creative around the basket. But it's almost like he was told that's not your role for this game. Stand outside of the arc. So what are you going to do to increase and elevate his game? What are you going to do with Obi? Obi, you need to work with somebody in the organization, or you need to go down to Houston and watch tapes. Even if Olajuwon is too old to work with you on your moves, you need to come back with more of a bag. You need to come back ready to use it. Or you're going to be out of here. It's as simple as that. But we are at a dawn of a new era. And the New York Knicks have an opportunity. They already started it by announcing that they're here, this playoff run. And that is not a fluke. And they're not paper. But it's their job now, in these last 2 years of Tom Thibodeau's contract, to show, all right, we have talent. We showed that we could win and beat teams during the regular season. We showed that we could go into games and there's an expectation for us to win no matter what the other team on the other side is. We beat Denver during the regular season. And I know Bob Myers, who is out there, is an option. But Bob Myers is out there. He said, listen, playoffs is completely different from regular season. Completely different. He talked about in the playoffs, they take your first favorite move away from you. So you got to be talented and skilled enough to have a bag. That's why when we go back to that slide and I talk about Obi having the ability to be in transition, once they take that from you, what are you? You're useless to the team. So say what we will, when they take Julius's first move away from him, what is he going to go to next? He does have multiple other skill sets, so he'll pass that game. But in the playoffs, ultimately, a lot of our players had what they did best taken away from them. How do you respond? Now, the beauty of it is that the experience shows them that statement is true. And we're going into year 3 and year 4 with players that we've cultivated, that we've put through and tested in battle and kept them together. And that's part of the plan that we don't see. We want to pick and play and plug and play and just add pieces because we've seen a player like Hart come in and effortlessly blend in. A player like Hart come in and effortlessly blend in. Those are not randoms off the street. This front office, this organization, they researched those players. There was previous connections to come in. You got to know the chemistry and the group of guys that you're bringing in and the character of the person you're bringing in as well. That all got to fit perfectly. But something that we're quickly approaching that no other team has. Milwaukee had it. Some other teams probably I'm not thinking of have it. It's the cohesion and the fact that we've kept the team together. That they're going to endure battles with each other together, against each other, and against the opponents. And I heard some other content creators say it, like you keep the same team together another year, it's going to be like 10 more wins. And I agree. So we can either keep this squad and run it back, but I'm also not against, like a lot of people are, listen, if a superstar becomes available, you get them. If the price is right and it makes sense, and we just got to, if a guy, I know, but listen, if a Giannis becomes available, hey, I'm sorry, IQ, I'm sorry, whoever, ship them out. We keep Brunson, or if we keep IQ and then add Giannis to that, we will figure it out later. That is the type of player, that is the level player that you figure it out, you make it work later. But right now, the way the New York Knicks are positioned and this experience getting to the semi-finals, all of these players are going to have sleepless nights at some point in time throughout the summer because they know had they taken a shot, not acquiesced, or had they made a shot, or had they not gotten injured, the New York Knicks would be competing for an NBA championship in the NBA Finals. But I love where it is that we are. We're beyond competitive. We're at the point of championship contending. It's only a couple of steps between this and there. And we got to take advantage of this window before other teams emerge and usurp us in that spot where we're supposed to be. All right? But I'll tie it in, man. I know I've been talking forever, but I'm excited about this team. I'm excited about the post-LeBron era. Will the Knicks be one of the top 5 teams for the next 10 years? I'm excited to know that I believe we will be. I believe the New York Knicks, New York City, and the Mecca of basketball will be a free agent destination. You only got to look as far as the playoffs, where Carmelo Anthony is there with Kai and Anthony going crazy. You only got to look as far as online when Carmelo Anthony announced his retirement, and the New York Legends are making a video for him that insinuates that it's a possibility his jersey is going to be retired in the rafters. When you got John Starks, you got Patrick in the house rooting this team on in the playoffs. This team is likable. Our alumni love us. The culture, the vibe, the excitement is coming back. The LeBron generation is getting older, and the younger generation is coming up, seeing this New York Knicks team grit, and Jalen Brunson, somebody who they could look at his game and pattern their game after. It's a new day for these New York Knicks. It's a new day for us Knicks fans. There's a generation that's coming up that's going to know the New York Knicks as having won games, as having beat some of the favorite teams, and taking their spot, the new spot, as one of the new teams to come up that other teams got to contend with. A top 5 team in this game. And to end it all, once year 4 and year 5 pass, depending on where we are, whether or not we have a star on a team, whether or not our point guard ascends to superstardom, by year 5, we don't know. Maybe we got a superstar side by side with him. Maybe Julius is here. Maybe he's not. Maybe Grimes turns out to be that missing link. But I can't wait to see year 5, because my prediction is by year 5, there will be somebody else playing alongside of Jalen Brunson that's going to have us consistently in the Eastern Conference Finals. I also think year 5 is where the transition is going to start, where Tom Thibodeau moves into a front office position alongside his friend Leon Rose. And then the ball is going to be passed to Johnny Bryant to take us to the next level. Tom Thibodeau is not going to get us there. He's going to lead us halfway to the point, and then he's going to pass the reins to Johnny Bryant. And when he does, then you know our culture is going to be set. Because Tom Thibodeau said, I would love for the New York Knicks organization to create a culture that mirrors the Miami Heat. And that's exactly what Miami did. So that's it. That's the quote. Listen, I appreciate y'all for joining me. I appreciate you if you're watching this on your way to work. I appreciate you if you watch this on your drive home tomorrow. But you know what? Everybody eats at Knicks Deli. I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear it. Everybody eats at Knicks Deli. And it's late, and I'm waking my neighbors up. So keep this in mind. The same thing applies to life that applies to our team. If there's no struggle, there is no progress. I thank you for rocking with me. I thank you for enduring the rebrand. I'm going to have a new intro. I'm going to have a new outro. I'm going to have a new overlay. I'm coming with the smoke. Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 p.m. It's going to be a new video or live, so you can rock with me. Today, I'm not necessarily going to engage, but I'm going to read all the comments and I'm going to comment back to you. And at 10 p.m. on every Saturday, I'm going to be live and I'm going to be doing a mailbag segment here at Knicks Deli. Look for me to work with other content creators. I got something in the mix with my boy, and we're going to drop that this weekend, probably on Sunday, so look for that. I'll say it, my guy D's World of Hoops. We're going to do something today, so if you follow D's World of Hoops, look for something from us. We're going to do something together. If you don't know, if you're hearing D's World of Hoops for the first time, check his channel out. The most knowledgeable Knicks fan that I know, statistics, deep dive in, knows his stuff from a coaching standpoint, from a fan standpoint, completely knowledgeable. All right, folks, thank you for rocking with me. Get some rest. You got work in the morning. Happy Friday to you, and I'm out. Knicks Deli. Peace.